Ladies and gentlemen, President Trump's big, beautiful bill is slowly coming to fruition, and so right now, the radical progressives inside of the Democratic Party are getting desperate. Take a look.
This bill actually hurts everyday Americans in order to reward billionaires. It would strip away health care from approximately 14 million Americans. Premiums, co-pays, and deductibles for tens of millions more will go up. Actually, if it ever were to be implemented into law, hospitals will close, nursing homes will shut down, and people will literally die.
You hear that, folks? If President Trump and the congressional Republicans pass the big, beautiful bill, then people are just going to start dying. Now, of course, this is nothing but a bunch of radically progressive, fear-mongering propaganda. Notice how he says that millions of Americans will lose their health care? Well, what he neglected to mention is that the only people losing health care under the big, beautiful bill are illegal aliens that shouldn't even be in the country. Specifically, the big, beautiful bill will require a proof of United States citizenship in order to qualify for Social Security or Medicaid payments. And so this is why the Democrats are losing their minds right now. Because you all know that their number one prerogative is taking care of their beloved illegal aliens. Now, another claim that the Democrats are making right now is that President Trump's big, beautiful bill will increase the national deficit, which is also completely bogus. In fact, I want you all to take a listen to what House Speaker Mike Johnson had to say about that, but first, I do want to say real quick that if you guys enjoy the daily news updates, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton. But okay, check this out.
Mr. Speaker, if the big, beautiful bill does add to the debt, will President Trump own that?
It's not going to add to the debt, but I can tell you that President Trump is laser focused on two primary things: delivering on his campaign promises and the America First agenda, which is what a record number of 77 million voters, popular votes, requested and demanded and gave us a mandate to do. But he's also concerned, as I am, as Ron Johnson is, as Rand Paul is, as all of us are, about the nation's debt. And he and I talk about this frequently, and he is excited about changing that trajectory. That President Trump, I think, can be the most consequential president of the modern era because he has these opportunities to do these big things. The one big, beautiful bill is a big first step to provide relief for the American people, to give everybody more take-home pay, more money in their pocket, and to change the trajectory of the country. And again, it's the first of a number of steps, and President Trump is committed to doing this.
Mr. Speaker, the Joint Committee on Taxation, the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, the Tax Foundation, the Penn-Wharton budget model all say this will add trillions of dollars to the deficit. Are you really telling the American people this will not add one penny to the debt and deficit? You can guarantee that?
I am telling you this is going to reduce the deficit.
And so, folks, there you have it. The truth is, the big, beautiful bill actually reduces our national deficit, which is really the first step towards reducing the national debt. In fact, take a look at what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent had to say about that specifically. Check it out.
One of the reasons I'm sitting here talking to you today and not at home watching your show is that I was concerned about the level of debt. So the deficit this year is going to be lower than the deficit last year, and in 2 years it will be lower again. We are going to bring the deficit down slowly. We didn't get here in 1 year. We didn't get here in 1 year, and this has been a long process. So the goal is to bring it down over the next 4 years, leave the country in great shape in 2028.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, here's the reality. Our egregiously large national deficit, our reckless spending, which has caused the national debt, has been going on for decades now. So what this bill does is take the first step towards reversing that trajectory. Now, is it going to immediately fix every single budgetary issue that we have? No, of course not. That's not even possible. But it is going to set us down that path. But so just like how all of the Democratic politicians are currently fear-mongering over this bill, you just know that the left-wing mainstream media is also pushing their anti-American, radically progressive propaganda. That being said, Scott Bessent knows exactly how to deal with that. Take a look.
We wanted to make sure that there aren't price increases, Margaret, and thus far there have been no price increases. Everything has been alarmist. That the inflation numbers are actually dropping. We saw the first drop of inflation in 4 years. The inflation numbers last week, they were very pro-consumer.
Right. But you listen to earnings calls just like we do. Mm-hmm. You know what Walmart's saying, what Best Buy's saying, and what Target are saying.
But Margaret, I also know what Home Depot and Amazon are saying. I know what the South China Morning Post wrote within the past 24 hours, that 65% of the tariffs will likely be eaten by the Chinese producers.
So folks, what do you say we talk about what we all just watched? All of the radically progressive propaganda coming from the Democrats and their operatives in the left-wing media completely relies on people not knowing what the facts are. And so when they're confronted with someone like Scott Bessent, who pretty much knows everything there is to know about all of this stuff, he just dismantles all of their insane and completely unfounded lies. And on that note, I think you folks should probably take a look at this.
The reality is there will either be less inventory or things at higher prices or both.
When we were here in March, you said there was going to be big inflation. There hasn't been any inflation. Actually, the inflation numbers are the best in 4 years. So why don't we stop trying to say this could happen and wait and see what does happen?
And so, ladies and gentlemen, that was the killing blow. He just directly called her out to her face, pretty much accusing her of being an anti-American fear-mongering propagandist. And you know what? I mean, is he even wrong? It's not just her, it's all of these talking heads in the left-wing media. They just spread lies all day, trying to convince the nation that Trump's presidency is the worst thing to ever happen to the country. However, the problem for them is that all of their never-ending lies are completely detached from reality, and that all of us Americans going about our lives can already tell that the country has drastically improved in just the last 5 months, ever since President Trump stepped back into the White House. And so I don't know about you, but honestly, I sort of take it personally here. It's like, do you really think that I'm dumb enough to not believe my own eyes, and that instead I should listen to people like Margaret Brennan, the highly esteemed CBS political host? Yeah, give me a break. You would think that given their terrible ratings, both the left-wing media as well as the Democratic Party would realize that no one believes their propaganda anymore, and that just maybe they should take a swing at actually trying to fix the real issues that real Americans are dealing with on a daily basis. But nope, they're just doubling down on the incompetent propaganda. Oh well. While they keep floundering and losing national support, all of us over here on the right side of the aisle will just continue putting America first. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we wrap up, I do want to say real quick that we officially have a Morse News Twitter page as well as a Morse News Facebook page. So if you use either of those platforms, please go down below and drop a follow in order to get breaking news updates that relate to everything we talk about here in the YouTube videos. But everyone, that is going to be a wrap for today's video, so please go down below and drop a comment. Let me know what you think about all of this. Please like the video while you're down there, and like I said earlier, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton. Thank you all very much for tuning in today, and of course, as always, stay safe.